Photosynthesis is a process where plants use carbon dioxide, light energy, and water to ultimately create glucose. So this process is an anabolic process because it's smaller units coming together to create something bigger. Like carbon dioxide is coming together with water to create glucose. And photosynthesis happens inside of the chloroplast of a plant. So the balanced equation for photosynthesis is 6CO2 plus 6H2O yields to create C6H12O6 plus 6O2. So basically what I told you, carbon dioxide plus water with the help of sun energy creates glucose. So the reactants are on the left side and the product is on the right side. The first stage of photosynthesis is the light reactions or the light-dependent reactions, and this happens inside of the thylakoid. The thylakoid looks like a disc, which is inside of the chloroplast, and a stack of thylakoid discs is called a granum.
So right now, the Broncos just won the Super Bowl. Isn't that right? I'm sorry. Broncos just won. But the real main event is Hector as an electron. So Hector right now, he is an electron inside a chlorophyll, and sunlight is hitting Hector as a chlorophyll. Hector, can you please go inside the first chlorophyll? So he goes inside the first chlorophyll, he gets really excited, and he jumps to the next chlorophyll. And the next chlorophyll already has an electron, so he can't really hold it, and Hector's all excited, so he jumps to the next one. And he does this process over and over and over. He does this process over and over again until he gets out. So Hector is an electron. He will get out of this cycle, out of his last chlorophyll, and he will get picked up by NADP+, and he will turn into NADPH. So remember that first chlorophyll that had that electron, it's empty now, so it needs to get replenished. So because the light energy got it really hyped up and it started jumping everywhere. So water, which is my brother, water, he will come in and he will break up. He will break up. And then when he breaks up, another electron comes out, and the side effect of oxygen, which is the tree. Oxygen is the tree. It pops up, and Hector turns into the electron. He sits down on his chlorophyll to make it happy again. So the excited electron in the end, it gives off the energy before it goes into NADP+ and turns into NADPH. It gives off the energy, and the energy gets picked up by ADP and it turns into ATP. So in the end, this all has to some way, somehow, have to be able to create glucose. So, do you know how to create glucose?
No.
No. How about you? No. How about you, Hector?
No.
And you take bio. So this has to create glucose. I'll show you. So to make glucose, we have to make this all through the Krebs cycle. So we have to have NADPH, which we created in light-independent reactions, carbon dioxide, which we need, and ATP, which we also created in the light-independent reactions. So we put this all into the Krebs cycle. So we put that all, that's the Krebs cycle. This is the Krebs cycle. And in the end, it creates glucose. This is glucose.
So the herbicide that we had to research on was uracil. And uracil basically stops the process of photosynthesis 2 from happening. And photosynthesis 2 is basically it happens inside of the light-independent reactions, where basically when the light hits the chlorophyll and the chlorophyll has the electron that gets all hyped up, that it would basically block out the light, so it would stop all of that from happening. So if uracil came into action, the electron would have never been hyped up by the light energy, and the electron wouldn't have been gone into NAD+ and turned into NADPH, which is needed to create glucose. So in the end, uracil basically stops photosynthesis from happening, because photosynthesis in the end creates glucose, and uracil would stop the glucose from forming. Since cellular respiration is basically like the inverse of photosynthesis, it's going to basically have the same equation, except the products and the reactants are going to be switched. So the reactants are C6H12O6 basically glucose plus 6 CO2 and oxygen yields to create this H2O, which is water, plus 6 CO2, which is carbon dioxide.
So this is how cellular respiration works. This is going to represent a glucose, and this is going to represent an ATP. The first step is glycolysis. We have to break this glucose down into 2 pyruvates. To do this, we need 1 ATP for the reaction to start. So as you can see, we have 2 pyruvates now, and from this reaction, there was 2 ATPs and 2 NADPHs formed. This pyruvate has to change to acetyl-CoA, so it does a chemical reaction. Right there. So now that you see, we have acetyl-CoA, it's going to go through the Krebs cycle. Go. ATP, NADPH, and FADPH formed. So either NADPH or FADPH drops an electron into here. So for instance, I'll be the electron, and the electron will go into the membrane, and it's just going to jump around, which is going to attract hydrogens. So as it jumps around, hydrogens come in trying to get it, but it gets dodged. You keep jumping around.
Vector, as an electron, he's gonna jump out of the inner membrane, and he's gonna get collected by a positively charged hydrogen and oxygen, and he turns into water. All right, guys, you know what it is. This cycle continues over and over, and too many hydrogen protons come into the intermembrane space. What happens? What happens, Hector?
Alright, so the hydrogens want to leave. They go here.
Load of high concentration.
They go here through the
Protein channel.
right here.
And while they move, they create energy, and the energy gets picked up by ATP. Like, throw 'em, Hector. There you
Everything
go.
that happens right here is getting it keeps making all this ATP, and that's how most of the ATP is formed.
The metabolic inhibitor that we were given was pyruvate carboxylase deficiency. So pyruvate carboxylase is needed in order to make the pyruvate into acetyl-CoA. So if we can't make that pyruvate into acetyl-CoA, then we won't be able to make the Krebs cycle, because the Krebs cycle requires acetyl-CoA, not a pyruvate. It can't do it with just the straight up pyruvate. It has to do it with acetyl-CoA. So in the end, if it can't make acetyl-CoA, it won't be able to go through the Krebs cycle, and if it can't go through the Krebs cycle, which is the second stage of cellular respiration, then we can't create cellular respiration. So that concludes our video. So thank you, Saya. Hector loves you.